Welcome, everyone. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and we are excited, as always, to bring ideas about innovation, entrepreneurship, and education to our members and our guests from around the world. One of the things about being an online club is that we not only have members around the world, we have folks clicking in to find out more about what's happening in Silicon Valley with the idea of technology and service and innovation, and we love being able to share stories along those lines. We are clearly not limited with who can speak to us as well, because we have this kind of nice technology system working with us. And today we are going to hear from Paul Mesarcik, who is in South Africa and leads a program called Lumkani. He's going to tell us about this is the kind of effort that we think can make a big difference in a lot of lives. And so we hope that you will be intrigued as we were when we learned about this and asked him to speak. And so with that, I'd like to hand it over to you, Paul.
Thanks. Hi, Rushton. Hello to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present here. Very, very excited. And this is the first Google Hangout I've ever done, so I'm quite nervous. But let me start with the presentation over here. So my name is Paul Mesarcik, and we have a company in Cape Town, South Africa called Lumkani. And our vision is to mitigate the loss of life and property caused by fires in one particular place. And this is where the story begins, in informal settlements, such as the one you see in this image here. Now,
Paul, I'm going to leap in. I think we didn't quite get the sharing bit to kind of kick in, so we're close.
Oh, did it not work? Okay. Sorry.
No,
oh man, I've done. We're gonna have to start again. I started the presentation and forgot to click share on the screen share.
That would have been what they were expecting. No problem.
What do you? Are you okay with that awkward time where I'm sort of flicking through my computer screen and starting the PowerPoint? Is that fun? Okay.
Yeah. While you're bringing up the screen share from the little green icon. I can kind of point out that one of the exciting things about technology and finding ways to use it is that we're constantly, kind of figuring out, okay, well, how does this work? Is this doing what we expect and all that? So perfectly natural part of the process.
Okay, cool. Sorry, take two. Is that okay, or should I start my part again, or are you going to edit this thing together, or do you want to have one continuous?
I'll probably let it. I mean, I'm kind of charmed by the conversation we're having at the moment, so I'll probably just leave it in. But
just dive in. You can't leave this in. Okay, great. Well, let me just share this again quickly. I'm supposed to be a technologist. You can't let everyone know that I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so again, my name is Paul Mesarcik, and we have a small enterprise in Cape Town, South Africa called Lumkani, and our mission is to protect against fires, and fires in one particular area, and that's in informal settlements. And this image of an informal settlement just outside of my home in Cape Town is a picture of what you expect to see all over South Africa and all over the developing world. And these are incredibly densely populated areas with houses made of all materials, with very small amount of space between the houses. And what happens is that because of the heating, lighting, and cooking methods used by people in informal settlements, one of the most devastating occurrences is the spread of fires. And what you have is one candle being knocked over and causing the destruction of tens, hundreds, thousands of homes, because fires spread incredibly quickly in these areas. They're also traditionally incredibly underserved and very difficult to get emergency services to. There's no real street names or house addresses. They're very, very narrow streets and very difficult to get fire trucks or emergency personnel into them. So in terms of numbers, in Cape Town, for example, in the first 3 months of 2013, 11,000 people were left homeless due to shack fires. Now that's a staggering amount of destruction. And if we look more globally, in 2015 in the Philippines, more than 10,000 families were left homeless when a couple of fires broke out in Manila. Now, we as a group of friends and colleagues and a group of technologists were really, really upset about this and thought that perhaps there's something that we can do. Perhaps there's a technological intervention that can alleviate this issue and maybe stop the spread of these fires. And because we ourselves did not live in informal settlements, we went through a process of very in-depth consultation and co-design with members of particular communities in South Africa, an area called Khayelitsha and UT Gardens. And this is an image of one of our early community meetings and discussions around the type of technology that would have an impact to prevent the spread of fires. The next image is an early prototype that we came up with, being held by a community leader in UT Gardens. And this black box was our stab at a fire detector. We thought detection would be a great way, and early warning would be a great way of preventing the spread of fires. And Lumka, who's holding this device, had a lot to say about the attempt that we had. She said it looks terrible, it's not nearly loud enough, and wouldn't it be great if it had an effect where it could communicate to other devices so that we could spread this message far and wide instead of just alerting one person. And with that sort of insight and many, many iterations, building potential detectors and then burning them down, and building a whole lot of informal houses and testing devices inside them and then burning them down, we now came to this device. And this is the Lumkani fire detector. This is the first networked fire detector designed for informal settlements. And it's designed here in South Africa. And how it works is that it has 3 levels of protection. We've designed it so that it's a heat detector, a rate of rise heat detector. And this is because traditional smoke detectors would cause far too many false alarms because of the natural conditions of informal settlements that are quite polluted and smoky, and you have cooking fires or paraffin stoves that would influence the outcome of alarms. So we decided to go with rates of rise of heat detection technology instead. And if it detects a fire in a home, it will set off an alarm that will alert people in that home that there's a problem and give them the necessary time to respond before the fire becomes unmanageable. As soon as, if the device isn't silenced within 20 seconds, it then sends a transmission to all neighboring devices, and this allows for a community-wide alert. So what we realized from our discussions with the community is that a fire inside one person's home is just as important for your neighbors to know about, because within seconds that fire could be inside their home. So what we do is we send this alert to all neighboring devices through RF transmission, and that allows as many people as possible to be alerted that there's a problem, and allows them to put out or tend to the emergency before it becomes completely unmanageable. As a third level of protection, we also provide a data collection service, and we've designed an internet gateway that monitors our individual detector nodes in the system and can report back on fire events and the health of the system. So as soon as a fire is detected, we also send the GPS location of that fire to emergency services, and we can send SMSs to community members that have subscribed to our service and give them as well early warning through their cell phones, or if they're not currently at home, they can be alerted there's a problem. So that is the description of our system, and so far we've managed to install approximately 2,500 of these devices across the Western Cape, which is a province that we come from. And this picture here is an image of our community leadership from UT Gardens, again, the first community that we consulted with. And this is the community leadership just after we installed our first pilot session. And what happened just after that, the first installation of the pilot and the first installation of our smoke detector, of our smart device, is that the morning after we installed, I was sitting at work and I got an SMS on my phone saying there's been a fire detected. And I immediately had this, I immediately was filled with worry, and I thought that we'd created a bug that I'd programmed. There was a glitch in the system because it couldn't possibly be detecting this well. And I immediately called the leadership of the community and said, listen, I'm not sure what's happening. And they said, we can't talk to you right now. We're just busy putting out a fire that's been detected by the device. So one day after we installed the system, we successfully prevented our first fire. And that was a really great point for us, and just a little bit of a story of success of how the system's been operating currently. Just to give you a bigger picture, in South Africa alone, there's 1.9 million people living in what we call shacks. And this is approximately 8 million people that live in daily fear of fires spreading through their community and destroying everything that they have. And we, in the next coming months, hope to be able to service a huge portion of these communities in South Africa. And then looking further afield, there's approximately 1 billion people worldwide. And in the next 5 years, up to 1.4 billion people who live in informal settlements and experience these kinds of dangers and experience these kinds of fears and worries. And we hope to be able to provide our detection system to all of these people and to try and alleviate these fears and the destruction caused by fire. Now, we are starting I suppose our Internet of Things, our mesh network of protection with a focus on fire detection. But we hope that in the next few months and years, we can spread to provide emergency services and increased resilience to communities that have historically been incredibly underserviced. And this would maybe take the form of early warning flood detection or earthquake or tsunami protection, and we could leverage off an existing network of devices to create warnings for a whole host of things. So thank you very much for your time and listening to our presentation. And yeah, if there's any questions, I think I'll take those now.
All right, fantastic stuff. I'm really impressed with the way that you've approached some of these different pieces and the way this has come together. I should also, two things. First of all, go ahead and do a stop share on your side. And while you're doing that, I'll also let everyone know that our member in Cape Town, Richard Nags, is the person who connected us so that we could tell this story. And we're very excited to do so. This is a beautiful example of technology filling a need in a very simple and powerful way. So, and that's an incredible story about like preventing like the day after you installed it, that this became something that was already useful to them.
It was really weird. It was like really, it was seriously overwhelming when it happened. Wow. And we've kind of continued now moving into more communities and having similar stories of early warning detection being really, really effective. It's also, I think, quite strange and important to put it into context that a place like South Africa, I know, unlike the United States, no one has early warning fire detectors in their homes or in office blocks or in buildings. It's just culturally, or I don't know why, but no one has it. So least of all people that are living in informal settlements have it. And it's such an obvious thing, maybe, like obviously the best way of preventing fires is to get a warning and be able to put them out. But it's just something that, for whatever reason, I think for most places in the developing world, it's just not a thing.
Well, and there's a certain sense of once a fire detector in an informal settlement, you know, like if your home is part of an informal settlement and your fire detector goes off, it may be too late, you know, to actually, you know, kind of really get things going, you know. But what you've done is add this mesh networking system that allows people all around the area to be like, so that way, if only half the people are at home, still there are people who can respond to this, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened in the first case as well. It was actually the fire started in a home of someone who wasn't even there. They were actually at hospital giving birth to their first child, and an ember from a fire that was made outside of their house, like just a cooking fire, blew into their home. They had one of our detectors in it. The fire started, alerted everyone else around them, neighbors that had also installed the devices, and they put the fire out without the person even being there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the most powerful experiences of my life happened a few years ago. I was in Mumbai, India, and was able to take a tour of Dharavi, the slum that is celebrated in the Slumdog Millionaire movie. And well, celebrated is the wrong word, but at any rate, just seeing not just the way people are living so close together and everything, but also how creative people are in making those spaces work for them. right? So there's an awful lot of community that happens in that setting, and it seems that in one sense, your device is tapping into the strong sense of community that happens in a place where people are practically on top of each other, right? I mean, just right there, right? So very, very powerful. Now, one person we had come and speak to our person in New York, a woman named Alice Chun of Solite. They created a thing called the Solar Puff, which is it's like an origami little box that goes, and it has a solar detector on the power detector on top, and it then can be something that can give 4 to 8 hours of light, or something along those lines. That might be another place where just in terms of trying to minimize damage of fires, making sure that people aren't using candles, for example, for being able to read or study or that kind of thing.
100%. I mean, we're very excited about being part of a larger ecosystem. I mean, it's a whole lot of change that needs to happen, and it's about efficient cooking stoves, perhaps on one hand, or different methods of preparing food, lighting that isn't dangerous. I mean, the idea that the light that you need to study on at night, like using a candle, could be the thing that destroys your entire home is so crazy, but is unfortunately the reality faced by billions of people, 1 billion people across the world in some ways. And I mean, we're very, very supportive of any sort of solar technology that could alleviate that, to help people not use candles.
I'll definitely get some information to you about the kinds of things that they're doing with Solite and the Solar Puff, because that might be a nice added thing to bring to what's happening there. On a different note, when you think about the system you set up, how does it work in terms of a business model? So are people subscribing to the network in some sense? Do they pay for the device? How does it work?
So we're busy sort of piloting a whole lot of different options, and at the moment we've been distributing through a co-financing model. So we've been getting funding from essentially from aid organizations and government bodies to sell the device at a reduced cost to the end user, and we've been collecting money from them and then distributing community-wide. So we do a community-wide collection of money, rather. So there's a community often, and I suppose you mentioned it, that communities and informal settlements are incredibly well structured and have often got community banking accounts, and they have weekly meetings, and a lot of discussion goes into how to protect against fire and against crime and all of these issues. So we've been kind of leveraging off those existing platforms and those existing structures to distribute, to a large extent, mostly community-wide. So we'll block out an entire area rather than just selling once off to 1 or 2 people, because the system is far more effective when you've got a really good, dense network. So we've been using that co-financing model. Then we've also been experimenting with, and we're going to launch it very, very soon, being able to subscribe to the SMS services for a small fee, like a weekly fee that's actually all done via very simple feature phones. So your airtime is deducted rather than having to pay or having to need a bank account, which often isn't that easy to use. And then we're also looking at potentially an insurance model, or a way of being able to offer insurability to people, because we can map the risk of fires and greatly reduce it. So we're looking at various insurance providers that are looking at providing a low-cost insurance model, but actually there's no data or ability to assess risk properly, and therefore there isn't an opportunity to provide financial services to people. So hopefully we'll be able to fit in there and create great usable data and the potential to give financial services to people who otherwise have to go completely unprotected.
Fantastic. I mean, I love seeing, not just the insights that allow, kind of the technical, kind of advancements to be a part of what you guys are doing, but also a creative and really, you know, kind of productive look at how financing can happen as a part of it as well. Now, where do you get these made? Is it a factory like in your area? Do you have to bring them in from somewhere else?
Yeah, these are all actually locally produced. The only thing that we get made in China is the PCB board. Otherwise, everything else is sourced and then produced locally in Cape Town. So we've got a really good manufacturing partner, and we're really happy about being able to actually do this locally rather than outsourcing all the production. So yeah, if you're looking at, yeah.
Perfect. You know, I mean, the kind of the gold standard would be not just, you know, meeting a need, but also creating, you know, something of an economy alongside of it. You know, when I think about,
Sure.
you know, what you were talking about with regard to the people in the communities having these strong structures for how they deal with all sorts of challenges that they face, you know, whether it's, you know, kind of banking stuff, you know, or whatever. It to me is very exciting to think in terms of leveraging their strengths. Often people kind of look at something like an informal settlement, and they think, oh, you know, those are all just people who need help. It's like, well, no, they're actually doing a lot of interesting things themselves that we probably can learn from, you know, if we just pay enough attention and kind of get past our own thinking about, you know, what it is that they do and who they are and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I suppose that this is the kind of story that allows, you know, people to better understand that.
No, that's an amazing privilege of working in these environments, is being able to see the incredible optimism and the incredible strength and community structures that are just so prevalent in these communities. And yeah, I mean, we go into Kailicha, for example, which is actually the third or fourth, I forget right now, largest informal settlement in the world. It's 400,000 people living just maybe 10 minutes outside of Cape Town, 15 minutes outside of Cape Town. So from where I live, and we go into Kailicha very often, and it's just always it's just such an eye opener. Yeah.
Well, I will actually be in Cape Town in early October.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going there for an educational thing that's being hosted at Richard School, and so, you know, I think it's I don't know. I'm very into the idea of maybe connecting with you at that point and maybe visiting Kailicha or something like that, if there's some way that we can find, to make that of value to them, you know, that kind of stuff. It would clearly be educational for me. All right. Well, at any rate, let's make that happen. So what I'm going to do our kind of close down, and then I ask you for any kind of final comments you might have. To all of our members and guests, anyone watching this recording, we thank you very much for joining us. We hope that the kinds of things you see over the course of our meeting, you know, the different pieces of information we have about what's going on in Rotary and around the world, the different things that we think might be inspiring to you via the videos, the images, things like this, are the kinds of things that kind of give you that extra shot of energy in the day, you know, that allow you to say, there's a lot of good happening out in the world, because, you know, you watch the news and what is it? Just all, you know, kind of horrible kind of violence and destruction and cheating, and that's no good. So what we want is we want to balance that out with stories of what happens when people really dedicate themselves to making a difference where there's a need. And this is a beautiful example of that kind of thing. So all of you who are watching this recording, there are two things I need you to do. First, below the recording, matter of fact, three things. Below the recording, there'll be some links so that you can learn more about Lumkani. If there are things that you want to do to support their efforts, you'll be able to follow those links and do so. And then after that, you'll find the I attended survey, and you need to fill that out. Let us know you were here. It takes all of 10 seconds of your time if you're going leisurely, right? So, you know, please fill that out for us. And it obligates you to nothing, of course. And then at the end, there is the Discuss system, DISQUS, which you can connect to via your Facebook account, several other social media, you know, connections as well. Or even just create a Discuss account, and that takes all of a few seconds as well. Leave your comments, because what we want to do with our meetings is have people really share their ideas. Hey, this is interesting. This would be useful in this kind of space. I wonder if this is possible. And that kind of discussion that happens following people watching the recording is a strength of the online model that we have in our online eClub. So with that, Paul, if you have any kind of last comments, I'm happy to have you share those with our group.
Yeah, just thanks again. And I think that this kind of using technology to spread ideas like this is really amazing. And yeah, I really salute your efforts. So thank you very, very much. And hopefully
Excellent.
see you soon in Cape Town.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it is our pleasure to be able to tell the story of the kind of thing you're doing and the kind of thing Alice Chen is doing, and so many others who are making the world a better place. It's just a matter of getting people to know about it and to find ways that they can get involved. So, with that, I want to thank everyone for joining in on the recording, and we will see you next week at the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, which you can always find at siliconvalleyrotary.com or rotarymakeup.org. Either way, thank you very much.